Hello, welcome to our videos on basic music theory. This first one talks about pitch and pitch class. So to start out about pitch, we have to start with sound. What is sound? Sound is vibration in the air. What kind of vibration? A pressure vibration. So there's a certain ambient pressure of the air in the room. And what happens with sound is that there's a local disturbance which causes a high pressure, and then the molecules move out from there and you get a low pressure, and that goes on and forth. High, low, high, low, high, low. Now when you get a regular frequency of high and low pressures, then you get pitched sound. So there are all kinds of sounds, no regular up and down, but now there's a regular high and low pressure. And the frequency of the pressure wave is correlated with the pitch of the sound. So a higher frequency pressure wave is correlated with a higher frequency pitch. So that's what we're actually talking about when we talk about pitch in music. And I've linked on the website to a video which goes into some more detail about that if you're interested in that. Now, talking about sound and pitch, how are we going to put language around that? Well, the first thing we need to talk about is something called octave equivalence. So when to demonstrate this actually, I'm going to use my cliched, beautiful female assistant to assist me in demonstrating the phenomenon of octave equivalence. And the way we're going to do this is by singing Happy Birthday together. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Now wait a second, hold on. I thought we were going to sing together. You start singing what you're singing. Start singing Happy Birthday. On this note, go ahead.
Happy birthday.
Now wait, that's not the same note as Happy Birthday. That's what I'm singing. Those aren't the same note, but they fit together, don't they? Let's sing together again. And Happy birthday to you. Any time that you have men and women singing together, you'll almost always have this same phenomenon, that you get a group of people together to sing Happy Birthday, you sing, let's all sing on the same note. Well, you don't need to say that, we just know that. And that's what you get. Those two things are happening at once, but they fit together perfectly. Now, what is it about those two pitches? Well, this pitch and this pitch are it's called an octave apart. That is to say, the frequency of the higher pitch is exactly twice the frequency of the other. And that leads to this phenomenon in which the two notes just fit perfectly together. Now, let's see what happens if we have some other frequency relationships. Sometimes people who have a little trouble with pitch, if you ask them to sing that, they'll sing this instead. Put those together and it sounds like this. And you're very aware of two different melodies at once. Even more aware, or I can do something horrible like this. Well, horrible depending on the context. It might be just the right thing for some cases, but as soon as I put pitches an octave apart, they just fit together. It's like they're two different versions of the same thing. That's why we use this term equivalent. Things that are equivalent aren't exactly the same, but they can be treated as the same for some purpose. So, octave equivalence. What octave equivalence does a lot of things for us. And one of the things it does for us is it makes it much easier to name pitches. Now imagine if we had to come up with a different word, a different name for every single note on the piano from down here to up there. That would be really cumbersome. That would be a lot of different things to remember. But because of octave equivalence, we can give some pitch a name, and we're going to use letters. We're going to use the letters A through G. We can give it a name and say that's a G. And that's a G, and that's a G, and that's a G. And we can call all of those pitches G because they're the same, they're equivalent in different octaves. So that means we only have to name pitches within a single octave. It's very convenient. This is going to allow us to be a little bit more precise about how we talk about pitch. So when we talk about pitch in music, this term is going to be reserved for a specific frequency of vibration. A pitch is this, and that is octave equivalent, but it's not the same pitch. It has to be, actually, this is, it has to be exactly the same pitch, and this is different, and this is different. Pitch names a specific register. But then because of octave equivalence, we also have something called pitch class. Pitch class. So when we talk about C, C isn't actually a pitch. C is a pitch class. C is the group of all audible notes that are C's in some register. So C is the group of all C's. So then, how are we going to name specific pitches? We're going to have to add some information, and we're simply going to number the registers. Let's move now to the handout that you've got. So you might want to click on that and look at your own copy of that as well. This diagram shows the entire humanly audible register. And all we do is we number pitches starting from the lowest and going to the highest. And in order to, this is called the ASA system for the Acoustic Society of America. And all we have to do to remember this system is bear in mind two things. First of all, notice that even though the letters A through G click over to new letters starting with A, these register designations click over with C. So you go from C not to G and then start over at A. You go from C up to B, and then you start C2 and you go to B2, etc. So remember that C starts the new register. The other thing to remember is that middle C is C4. And especially if you're interested in plastic explosives and things like that, that should be a very easy thing to remember. So if you just remember registers start with C and C4 is middle C, that's all you need to know, to understand and name any note in any register with the specific pitch.